Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Grow Your Tuition Business with me, Richard Cow. And today we have special guest, Lindsey Fekete. I said the name right?
You
I did.
did.
I
Well
just
done.
practiced it a lot. I was like, no, I'm going to forget it, but I didn't. It's great. Thank you. And a really warm welcome because I'm really excited to introduce you to the group and the audience who listens and watches this. Lindsey, tell us a little bit about your move away from teaching and what you first started and then what you're up to now.
Okay, so hello, thanks for having me. Um,
Welcome.
so I was a primary school teacher and a deputy head. I was teaching for over 20 years, 21 years when I left teaching. So a really long time. I never imagined I would leave teaching. I never imagined I would do
Really?
anything else. And then in 2021, I think I'm getting my dates all muddled up. Anyway, a few years ago,
Mhm.
I'm benchmarking it against COVID and lockdown.
Yeah,
That's how I
sure.
thought work it. But basically, I got on well. I burnt out. So I didn't see it coming. It wasn't planned. There were signs. I didn't see
Yeah,
the signs.
yeah.
And basically, I just couldn't get out of bed and go to work one morning. So I always say leaving teaching was decided for me rather than a conscious, planned thing. So that was a bit of a shock. And so I knew that I had to make quite drastic changes and I needed to leave teaching. So I put things into place so that I could stay in my school till the end of the school year, because this was like September, October. And I felt an enormous sense of responsibility not
Mm.
leaving partway through the year. So I went part time. I dropped all my deputy head responsibility. Luckily, my head was really understanding and flexible, and supported me so that I could stay. And then I started job hunting, and I just didn't find anything that I wanted to do. There was
Mm.
nothing that sort of lit that fire like teaching did. And there was a bit of I'm starting from scratch again here. This is really hard because any job that I go into that is completely different felt really entry level. And am I going to be starting right at the bottom? So I looked around, didn't find anything. A relative suggested tutoring, and I said, not sure I want to do that, or really want to get out of education. And then I got to Easter, realised I was leaving school in the July, and I still didn't have a job. So started tutoring, started doing some tuition, looking into it. What would I need to do? How would I do it? And I started part time that first term. And as soon as I started, I absolutely loved it. I loved
Mm.
it because I realized it wasn't the teaching that I wanted to leave, it was the school system, it was the education system.
Mm.
And actually, the teaching was really brilliant and lovely, and I enjoyed that. So I did one term where I tutored on a couple of evenings when I wasn't teaching. And then I started full time. And from the September, that was what I did. That was my business. That was all that I did. And I built up from there. It built really quickly. And looking back now, it feels like a really long time ago, even though it was only 3 years
Yeah.
ago. Um, but by the January, I was pretty much fully booked
Mm.
with one to one. And I don't know what I did that first term other than just keep going and working and working and
Mm.
sharing and sort of like putting my all into it because there was no other option. That was
Mm.
my income. So yeah, and then now I only tutor maths now. When I started, I did English and maths, so that's changed. I pivoted at the beginning of this year to or niche down, I suppose, the beginning of this year to just maths.
Mm.
And I now have some tutors that work for me, some freelance tutors. Yeah,
Okay,
and it's
there's a few so many bits that I could pick, like just go into here. The first one is looking at what you did in the beginning, but more importantly, like why it was like that. So in the beginning, when it was like, oh, I've got this, the pressure of I've got to do something because if I don't,
yeah,
I'm not going to have money coming in, and that's in the beginning part. That's the drive,
yes,
and then once
completely.
you get up and running, where does the drive come from now?
The drive comes from now. I think I've always had that in me.
Yeah.
So I always thought I would be a head teacher. I've always wanted to be at the level where I could make bigger change.
Okay.
I always wanted to be able to run a school how I wanted to run a school and
Yeah.
have that sort of say in things. So when I was teaching, I became an assistant head quite early on, and was part of the senior leadership team for definitely more than half of my career. So I've always wanted that input.
Mm,
And I think that's what I like so much about running my own business is that I can do it the way that I want to do it. And things have just changed over time. Some of it is just that I try things and get to a point and then think, oh, actually, this isn't how I want it to be. So I change it. So as I said, I became full really quickly. So by the end of my first full year, I was a bit, oh my goodness, I'm shattered, exhausted. I'm tutoring loads of hours. I kept saying yes to more and more parents and squeezing more and more time into the week. And then got to the end of the first year and thought, if I carry on like this, I'm going to burn out again.
mm,
And I didn't become self-employed and put all this work in so that I didn't see my kids or I was exhausted. So then
mm.
what can I do to change that? So then I started looking at passive things. So it's just, you do things, evaluate it. Is this how I want it to be? And change it. So I don't know if that's the drive, but that's where I've got to. Well, it is the drive, actually. It's
It
about
is.
making it how I want it to be for my life.
It-
Yeah.
th- th- Yeah, and when you look at the bigger groups on Facebook where it's life after teaching, and there's the big group that we probably all know, and there are other smaller groups around that and I think they're all international based. They're not, I know there's like obviously the Sharon Corley group, and which is mainly UK, which still have people from around the world. One of the big things that gets asked over and over and over again is, I've been a teacher for 20 years. I don't have any transferable skills. But what you've just described there is so transferable over to business. Like the idea of being influential, the idea of making decisions, the idea of being able to um, set something up like a project so that it can have an effect somewhere, like that is
Mm,
so transferable over to being a business owner or into
mm,
any business. Like it will be really, and people have made that leap, come back a few months later and say, oh, my life's like this now. Oh, this skill
mm,
and this skill and this skill. But when you're in the moment, like where you were just maybe pre where you got ill, those kind
mm,
of 2 or 3 months leading up to it, and you probably weren't even thinking about leaving at this point. Like when you go back and you think about who that Lindsey was compared to the Lindsey today,
mm,
what's really helped that mindset change, or what advice could you give to those people who kind of feel a little bit stuck?
mm. Um, well, I think if I look back, and I didn't realize this probably for about the first 12 months after I left teaching, but my confidence was shot to pieces by the end of
Mm,
teaching, and I didn't know it. I didn't realize it. I was so anxious and fearful of outside um, judgment,
yeah,
if that's the right word,
yeah, it is.
and being told that something that I was doing wasn't right, or I didn't trust my own judgment by the end
Yeah.
of it, and I didn't trust that what I was doing was going to be okay, and yeah, I mean that was probably all to do with anxiety and stress and things, but once I'd left, it took a little bit of time to grow my confidence back. But
Mm,
that came with things working out. So trying something and getting feedback. It's like with the children in the classroom. You
mm,
give children good feedback about something they're doing well, and they take the confidence and they
yeah,
have another go because
yeah.
they think, oh, okay, that's great, and you do a bit more, and then you get some more great feedback. So it grew over time from things like parents recommending me to other parents, seeing the transformation in these children that I was tutoring and them
Mm,
grow, and seeing the difference that I was making. And bit by bit, I was like, oh, actually, what I'm doing is good. And what I'm doing is really important. But it took me ages. I mean,
mm,
I wouldn't have said within the first 12 months, I'm a really good tutor and I know what I'm doing and I can do that. It took a really long time to actually own that,
Mm.
to say it to other people. Because when you're teaching, you don't do that.
No.
You say how amazing the school is, you say how amazing the children are, you
Yeah.
never say how good you are.
Mm. So
And
true.
it just took time. It just took time to sort of heal, I
Mm.
suppose, a little bit
Yeah.
and to go through that. But
Yeah.
um, with success and with things working out, you get a bit more confidence and a bit more confidence, and it just grows sort of bit by bit, really. Did
So
that answer
now,
the
and
question?
yeah, yeah, no, it does completely, and really well. Like the idea of like you bring in another way of putting it, just bringing your baggage with you, and we're constantly fearful of what people think of us because that's how we're measured in school. You know, whether it's learning walks, observations, you know, it's
Mm,
relentless. I and it might be the same in other industries. It just feels that it's a constant thing in
mm,
teaching. Again, and I've worked in other industries, but and I've never experienced it to the level I had in teaching. So that's
mm,
my experience. Other people will tell me, you know, yeah, we're under pressure too, and this happens and this happens. I just feel in teaching, it's unless someone's finding fault with you, they're not doing. It feels like they're not doing their job. You know, they'll come in and they'll see you, an amazing lesson, for example, but then they'll still have to find that one thing.
something to go
And
further. Yeah.
and yeah, and maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe that's okay in some places, but in others it's not because it's constant and relentless. And what it leads to is things like meetings in the office, and then you're doing your capabilities, and then it's like it tends to unravel into something that we all know is just anxiety causing processes. So when you leave teaching, it's so understandable that we bring that with us, and
Mm,
it takes time for it just to dissipate away.
yeah.
Because whether you're like, I think you put it beautifully about this just building up over time, this confidence. Like you try something and it works, and you go, oh, okay, I'm going to keep
Yeah.
doing that. And the next time you try something, it works. You go, oh, well, I can actually do this. This is something that's going to work. And suddenly you've got within 12 months, I'm not saying you've forgotten the previous stuff because you probably haven't, but you're more you feel like you're more capable to make those decisions, and then
Yeah.
you end up leaving it behind. You
Yeah.
mentioned like moving towards passive, so there was this point where you're evaluating what you're doing, and then the idea of passive incomes comes in. What prompted that move?
Well, I think it's hard to know, isn't it, where when what happens and how you find these things. But I spend a lot of time always sort of online and researching and joining people's groups and
Mm,
worlds and just sort of learning as much as I can about how to run a business, not
yeah,
necessarily tuition business,
no,
but a business. And I came across Lisa Johnson, who does lots of online training and support for people. And I think I did a challenge with her, and I found out about this possibility of things like courses, which
mm,
I'd always sort of thought, well, that's not for tutoring. You know, courses maybe for secondary children, but how would that work for prime children? And then the more that I found out about it, the more I realized actually there were things that I could do where I could make things. So I've got recorded lessons that I sell. And it was just about having a go and trying it and thinking, okay, if I do this and learn how to do this, then I can sell that alongside, and then maybe I can reduce my hours. So it a lot of I suppose of my journey has just been trying things out and giving it a
mm,
go and seeing what happens. And um, as I said to you before, I joined different memberships. I've joined
yeah,
lots of different things. Pretty much from day one of leaving teaching, because I realised quite quickly there was a lot to learn and I didn't know how to do most of it.
mm,
So you know, I set up a Facebook group. I've got a Facebook group for parents, and I did that pretty early on. Um, because somebody that I was following or talking to was saying it was a great idea. And I really missed that bit of teaching because I was maybe because I was the deputy head, but I spent a lot of time with parents, supporting parents. And I love that relationship of supporting them, and I missed it. And that was
mm,
one way of me get of carrying on doing that and feeling that what I was doing was really valuable. And so I started a Facebook group, but I didn't know how to run a Facebook group or what to do to get people in or how to sort of get people to chat and all those things. So I joined a membership for that. And then I learned how to do that. And then the next thing. So I've always joined things and paid for things
Yeah.
reasonably early on
Mm.
to get that bit of knowledge that I needed at the time.
Mm.
Because I
Okay.
can't do it all myself. I'm not, I mean, I did actually, I worked in banking before I went into teaching, but it was over 20 years ago. And the public sector is completely different from,
Mm.
I
Yeah.
didn't know how to do marketing. I wasn't even on Facebook before I started my business.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to use Instagram. I've had to go into a membership and try and
The
do some
whole.
training. Everything,
Yeah.
everything, the
Yeah.
legalities around it, how to do online stuff, how to
Mm.
do a website,
Mm.
everything. I had
Yeah.
to, I needed to learn it. I didn't know how. So I've joined things or paid people
Yeah.
or joined memberships and different things to do each thing as I've sort of needed or wanted to do it, I suppose.
We were talking a little bit, weren't we, before about just that whole investment in yourself and trying to find the right people for the right thing. And often, like I was similar to you, quite early, I wish I'd done it earlier, but it's still quite early on in my business where I started to invest in myself and trying to get not shortcuts, but trying to do it in the right way. So if I needed to learn about how to build an online business, went and did a course about online business. Wants to learn more about how to scale a business. I went and joined a mastermind that's about scaling a business. And none of this stuff was
Yeah.
tuition based stuff. It was just general business, which I absolutely love anyway. And yeah, I geek out on those sorts of things to the point where it's quite dangerous to the bank balance. I'm like, yeah, I'll go to that. Yeah, I'll go and do this.
Yeah. You have to learn how to say no, which I'm
You
not very good
do.
at.
You do. But you said something which was really key is like you go sometimes you go into a certain space and not everything there is what you need. But
Yeah,
that's okay because there's other things like ongoing accountability. Everybody needs that. But there might be some courses or pre-recorded stuff that's in within a membership that you would really benefit from watching. So if on your target this year is to have a website,
yeah,
like actually connecting with other people who could support you with that is a really good idea. And if you start free, like you might go and just, if it's WordPress, for example, you might go onto something like TikTok or Instagram or
mm,
Facebook and you type in WordPress support or whatever it is that you're going to use. You're going to
mm,
be shown groups to go and join. You're going to be shown like people who are experts in that particular arena that you can go and watch and start connecting with. And
mm.
eventually, these people are going to kind of entice you into something that could support you. And that's always been my journey to finding people. How I found Lisa Johnson, Expert Empires, and even some of the coaches and like, again community Facebook group support, all through doing things like that. You end up finding out who you want to work with. You end up realizing like through like testimonials whether this is going to work for you or not, or whether it's the closest thing that's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Do you um do you, how to word this? I think it's about investment in yourself. Was there any hang-ups around this? It doesn't sound like there was, but were there any hang-ups around this from leaving sort of a public sector, not even just teaching, but public sector? Because the reason I asked this is because this was a big block for me. So I never had any control over my training in the public sector. Like, and I've worked for the public sector since I was 20, in a variety of different roles, including social services, education. I was always just told what I had to go and do. Like I was like, go and do that course, go and do that course, go and do that. And it kind of felt like, and don't get me wrong, some of them are amazing, some of them are rubbish, some of them were, like to stand me in good stead today. But it felt like it was something that was being done to me rather than like I had a choice. Do you think that was that ever a barrier for you, like coming into and being able to have that choice and freedom to choose what you do?
I don't think having the choice was a barrier. Um, but I think I definitely, well, I don't think I know I had money mindset things
Yeah,
going on. Absolutely. That stopped me from spending money on things at the
yeah,
beginning that would have made my life a lot easier
yeah,
or would have saved me a lot of time.
yeah.
I mean, I built my own website
Mm,
through, I mean, I say I built it myself. I joined a membership where part of it was that I paid for templates. So I didn't do it, code it and all that sort of thing, but I had templates. But I did put design it all, put all that, but it took me 6 months to do that because every time it's not something that came naturally to
Yeah.
me. Um I kept putting it off because I didn't want to do it. I didn't enjoy doing it.
Mm,
And I think what I've learned over time is you either have to spend the time or the money. So you can spend less money and do it yourself, but you need to have the time to do it, or you can spend more money and get somebody to do it for
yeah.
you. But spending money, that was actually money mindset thing was one of the first things that I paid for,
Mm,
ironically, and I was really unsure whether to do it. So I paid for a little, not little, but it was like a 6 week group course program with somebody. Um, and I didn't want to spend the money because there was nothing tangible at the end of it. I didn't
mm,
know what I was going to get at the end of it. It wasn't like, pay me this money and at the end you'll have a website.
mm,
Pay me this money and at the end you'll have a Facebook group that is engaging. I didn't know what the end was, but I knew it was stopping me
yeah.
because I'd read around it and done lots of things. And it's so different now. My money
Mm,
mindset is completely different because it made me sort of do the work of unpicking those stories that I was, and it was a part of it was from teaching because, budgets have just got tighter and tighter and tighter.
mm,
The thing in teaching is you don't spend money.
mm,
You get things donated, you get them from charity shops, you make them yourself.
mm.
And spending money has sort of got less and less, hasn't it, on
Yeah.
things in schools.
You're
You're
always coming
always
from the point of scarcity, aren't we?
Yes,
Always.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
do it for as cheap as you can, but the
Yeah.
best that you can. And I had to get over that and stuff from childhood and
Yeah,
younger
sure.
years and things like that, that I think everybody has, actually. I
Yeah.
think everyone has something around money mindset. But that was really crucial to me growing my business
Mm,
because the the my expenses now, my biggest part of my expenses are on my own development.
mm,
That's like the biggest chunk of what I spend money on every month is my development as a business owner compared to things,
mm.
Zoom subscriptions or they were the things at first that I spent money on, but as I've developed, I've spent more and more on that development side.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that's what's got me there quicker, much quicker.
Yeah, I was similar. Like I found it difficult to choose, first of all, because I'd never had the choice. And so and then you're suddenly when you start researching, there's like an abundance of
Oh
stuff
yeah.
you could go and find.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was my eyes popping out my head going, how much is this going to cost? And then like
Yes.
backing
Yeah.
off because I was scared. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I definitely I definitely mirror that. And again, also similar from teaching and childhood stuff where you just
Yeah.
have to go and unpick. And I still haven't really done that. Like it
I
still
don't
comes
think it
into
ever
play.
ends though. I don't think it ever ends. I think
Yeah,
it just reemerges in a different context a bit
yeah.
later down the line as you do the next thing or do
Mm.
something else. It just comes back. Again, the same things but in a different way, I think. I don't think it
So,
ever goes.
so you're sat here now. You're 3 years into your business. There's and I should say actually, I met Lindsay at the strategy day, which I spoke about before. It was Charlie Day and Lisa Johnson event, which was an amazing event. And you was on stage. You was talking about your business. And as soon as someone says they're a tutor, obviously I'm in my chair like, hold on,
Like
let's
a
have a listen.
meerkat.
Yeah, okay, let's listen to this. And I went to try and find you. I chatted to the wrong person originally, and then found you. I think you come and found me a bit later. I was like, oh, I chatted to someone for 10 minutes, thinking it was you earlier on, and they turned out they wasn't a
Brilliant.
tutor at all. Someone completely different. Um, but your story was is inspirational, and um I'm really pleased that I'm able to share this with others because there's so many people either waiting in the wings or have just started will latch on to the success. So where are you currently now with your business? You started that one-to-one English and maths, you niched down just to maths, you
Hmm.
started talking, we've teased a little bit about the passive and the courses online. Where does it currently sit now, and what are the plans for the future?
So I've recently, from sort of mid-November, started to take on other tutors to work with me on a freelance basis. So that's how I'm growing the maths, the online tuition now. So I've expanded what I offer because I've done that. I've been able to expand up to include secondary children,
Yeah.
whereas before I was only offering primary. So I've opened the audience and the amount of parents and children that I can support. So it's growing that. I want to take on more tutors and grow that side. And then longer term, I want to franchise because what I found, there's a lot of ex-teachers actually that I've found in the business world that not necessarily doing tutoring, doing all sorts of
Mm,
things, but there are loads of ex-teachers who have got their own business. And what I found is that actually not everyone wants to do the journey that I did, where it grows and I did it myself and I learned everything and then I did the next bit. Some
yeah.
people don't want to do that. They want to have something a bit more ready made where
Mm,
the website's there and the social media's there. And, so I think there's a way that I can help people. I'm imagining teachers who leave teaching and then want to start their own online business, online maths business, but don't know where to start. So,
yeah.
that package of a franchise where all that support is there and all those things that I didn't have at the beginning.
Mm,
Um, so that's my longer term plan.
okay.
But I also just wanted to say, because obviously it's very condensed what we talked about. In the beginning, when I first started doing things like sharing on social media, I was terrified, absolutely terrified, to the point where I would write a post and just almost close my eyes and click post because the fear and also I didn't understand social media, so I was sort of waiting for this
Yeah.
backlash, and then I'd be constantly checking the post, and then I think, well, nobody's commented,
Mm,
nobody said anything, probably nobody even saw it at the beginning because it was the early days, and the
mm,
audience, my audience was much smaller, but it was really scary. I didn't
mm,
sort of go breezing in and just sort of start a Facebook group and start a page. It was really scary. It took
mm,
or I'd delete posts or I'd do a live and then think, oh, what will people think of that, and delete it. So it it takes time, and I think that's
mm.
quite normal to feel like that when you first leave
That part of the
teaching.
healing process as well, I think. Like, and some of these things, I'd imagine lots of people started the same way I did. Like, I don't think I deleted a live, but a lot of the time I was like, oh my god, that's absolutely rubbish.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
gosh, and then I think I'd certainly catastrophized everything. I was like, well, this business isn't going to work then because I just went
yeah,
live for 3 minutes, spoke a load of rubbish. No one's going to watch that. That's it, business over. And then
yeah,
I'd like pick myself up and go, okay, we'll
yeah.
try again.
It
And
is. It's the picking yourself up, isn't it, and keeping on
yeah,
going.
going again. To be honest though, with I think video is the way that most of us need to move. I think
Mm,
being out there, being present, and we will definitely agree with this because in our world, being visible is really important. And the people we spend time with will be like, yeah, you need to be visible. People buy from you; they don't buy from your business. That's the
yeah.
message that I know that we kind of sitting around those people. Video is just the number one way to do that. And case in point, I moved up to an office. I do mainly face-to-face tuition. I moved up to an office about 2 years ago, and I've been doing video content for a while. Not so much I do on my Facebook pages. It's kind of okay. I often say like I'm inconsistently consistent. I don't have a set strategy for my tuition, or very rarely do. I often just go, right, this is what I'd like to talk about this week, and I create posts around it, and that's it. It's very ad hoc, but I'm there a lot. I show up and my face is
Mm,
there. And so
mm,
people have never met me before. They'll come up and they go, oh, I recognize you from Facebook. Oh, I recognize you from your video. Like
yeah.
that automatically just puts you apart from those people who have their logos and they don't go live, or they just
Mm.
have the what's the iPhone face thing? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, like the little, not emojis, but like
Yeah,
a
little emoji, but
cartoon,
it's of you,
cartoon
isn't
sort
it? It's
of thing. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
And look, all of these things can serve a purpose. If that's where your starting point is,
Yeah,
great. Just start to take tiny little steps towards
yeah,
becoming a little bit more visible as you. Get a photo of yourself. Start
yeah,
with that. And then start writing posts because that's your voice. And then eventually you can move on to maybe just doing audio. Then you can move on towards maybe doing some pre-recorded that you can edit so that you're not
yes, yeah, yeah,
under
yeah,
pressure. But I quickly moved away from editing because it takes so much time
yeah,
and it's never
yeah.
perfect anyway.
No, I
Right.
definitely remember doing recorded videos and then sharing them because that felt better. When I
Yes.
started my Facebook group and I knew I wanted to go live because I knew it would make a difference in how like people getting to know you and your tone
Mm,
of voice and your expression and those sorts of things. And also we have to remember that the business that we're in, parents are trusting their children with us.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you need to feel like you can trust that person and you
Yeah.
know them. We're not sort of sending candle in the post where it's that's a bit random, but you know what I mean.
No, I do. Yeah.
It's a relationship and
Yeah.
it's really important, isn't it? And
Yeah.
so it took me the whole day to go live the first time, and that was in my group. That wasn't on my page where the
Mm,
whole world could see it. It was in my group of a trusted people that I knew
yeah.
them. And I kept going to go, and then I wouldn't because I was so scared of fluffing it. I had
Mm,
notes. In fact, I think I wrote a script the first time. But now I just go live. I just go live and talk. I go live when I'm walking the dog and I'm out
yeah.
of breath going up a hill, and
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's just practice.
Mm,
It's that it not desensitizes, but the more you do it, the less it's a big thing, and the more it's a
yeah.
normality. So it feels okay. But I don't go live enough on my page and on Instagram. I
No.
need to do that more.
Yeah.
Um, I definitely
Yeah.
don't. I do more reels and things, but yeah, you can't do everything, and it's just that day
It,
by day, step
mm,
by step. And if you are consistent and if you do small things regularly, it makes a big difference. It
yeah,
really does.
totally love that. That's there's a few books which talks about this, but one of my favorites is the Atomic Habits, where you just do that tiny thing every day, and
Yeah.
and it also feeds into other things. Like I love sport in general, so I used to do a lot of coaching. I don't do it at the moment, but I used to coach a football team, and we'd say to from when they were like 6 years old, so nothing like really. I'm talking super amateur, but trying to get children to love football in the way I did. Saying to them, we don't have to be like amazing. We just need to get a little bit better every single time. Just to get a little bit better. That's it. And then we're going to look at this today. And that's the teacher in me. Because we're going to look at this one. This is almost like learning objective. We're going to do this. Right. Okay. Are we better now than what we were at the beginning? Great. Right. Next week, we can do the same again. We're going to get a little bit better at it. And that was it. And it's the
Yeah.
same in business. I often do use sport as an analogy for myself. I'm like, well, if I was this person and I was trying to get better at that particular exercise or that particular discipline, what would I do?
Mm.
I'd go and do it. I'd go and practice. I'd
Yeah.
make it
Yeah.
easier to begin with. And sometimes making it easier to begin with is connecting with people who are further ahead than you because they can give you advice. Or maybe
Hmm.
it's the course, maybe it's whatever it may be that you decide to do. And then once you've done the reps, once you've done the practice, it becomes an automated skill that you just do
Yeah.
over and over again, like
Yeah.
going live and not worrying about whether you're going, I did one the other week,
Yeah.
and it was about a gratitude post, and I'd written down on a post-it note the people that are quite active in the group who offer a lot of value, and I was going to go and just say thank you. And I'd sat down with I'd done it slightly differently. This was the big issue. I'd set out my tripod with a camera, and so I
And
sat
it
down,
felt more formal.
and then I left the post-it note somewhere.
Oh, right.
And I was like, and I was just completely like, and I had to go. My mind's gone completely blank because it had. My mind
Yeah.
always goes blank, so I often have some notes. But yeah, just fluffed it, and end up being part of it. Like I think people like. I'm not saying that's ideal, but I'm saying that people don't mind the imperfections. It's what they actually
No.
resonate with,
No.
and
And I think if the one thing that helped me a lot actually was, and I have to keep reminding myself, is what do I think of other people? Like if I'm
mm,
watching somebody else, I'm not noticing whether they're saying and are a lot. I'm listening to what they're saying. If I'm
yeah,
interested in what they're saying, I don't care if they fluff a line or I don't
mm,
even notice. It's not. It's about that, and it's about that connection, isn't it?
mm,
You don't care, and yeah, yeah,
yeah.
just being kind to yourself maybe a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And look, we all have the fear. Sometimes at the beginning, the fear is stronger. And once you've done it a few times, the fear becomes less, but it's still there. It is
Mhm.
still there, but you can just cope with it. Lindsey, your business growth is phenomenal. The moves you've made over the last few years towards passive and taking all of those pieces of advice that you've seen from those you've worked with and invested in yourself, it's led you to having a secure business. Would you would you advise others to do something similar, like from a passive income point of view? Is that now you're in like that, because you're running a tuition business, but you're just generally business minded, right? That's why you're in the places that you're in. Learning from those people from other industries, would you advise other tuition businesses or people to look at passive income? At what stage would you do it or advise it?
Um, I don't think there's a stage that's the right stage. I don't think you can do it too soon.
Okay.
I don't think there's the thing where you've got to do at least 12 months before you can do it, or you've got to do at least 2 years, or I think you do it when is right for you. And I think you also, the beauty of owning your own business is doing things how you enjoy doing
Mm,
things. So I personally don't have lots of big groups, or even lots of groups of children that I tutor. I keep it really small and I do one-to-one. And as a business model, other people do different things. They only
mm,
have groups and they have
yeah.
larger groups because you can get a greater income from a greater number of students in a shorter space of time. But I like that interaction with one child, and
Yeah.
that's what makes me happy, and that's what I enjoy. And I think if you do something you enjoy, whatever that is, whether that's doing more passive because you want to do that more than the sort of face to face, or the online stuff, or you will do it. If you do something you enjoy and you're passionate about and you believe in, you will do it. Whereas if you're doing something just because you feel you should, or because you feel like that's the way to make money, and it will make you more money. And
Mm,
I'm fumbling a bit here,
I know
but
what you mean.
basically, you won't keep it going, and
Yeah.
you won't enjoy it. And if you don't believe in it, you won't share it with in the wider world. So
Yeah.
I think whatever you do, you've got to enjoy it and truly believe that it's the right thing for you and your business and for the children that you're working with, whatever that looks like.
I think that's key. I think that's key. Like, and it'll be for any business, but I think particularly for tuition and for teachers in particular, we became teachers for a particular reason. There would have been something
Yeah,
within us that was that moved us towards taking that leap, knowing that it's not the best paid, it's okay, but also that it's quite highly demanding and a stressful job. You did it because you wanted to make a difference. And if you take money off the table, what
mm,
do you want to do with your tuition business is to make
mm,
a difference. And if
yeah,
that's at the heart of what you're offering, everything
yeah,
else will be okay. You do have
yeah,
to have a bit of business
yeah,
decisions,
yeah.
but values there, you're going to be fine.
And I'm not saying run yourself into the ground
No.
and do it in a way that makes you unwell or is unsustainable, but
Mm,
I think it has to be, if you want to do passive income because you enjoy it and you will share it with lots of people, because that's the key. You've got to share it with the
mm,
wider world, because if you
mm,
don't, nobody will pay for it and then you won't make the income. So if you enjoy that and you want to do that, then you will make more of a success of it. If you do it because you think everyone else is doing it or you should do it or whatever the other
mm.
reasons are, then I don't think it would be as successful.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a good place there to stop, because it's about putting value at the heart of what we do and why we do it. Lindsey, it's been great chatting with you and sharing your journey. This is not going to be the end, so I'm going to keep inviting you back on, because I know there's a lot that's going to change over the next 6 to 12 months. Where you're going to be in 6 months' time is going to be different to
Yeah.
where you were 6 months ago, and hopefully to some future collaborations as well, like Q&As in the group would be good. I think there's a lot of
Oh
people
yeah, that'd be lovely.
will get some good tips and advice and value from what you've achieved. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.